everyone. It's Jackie at Stitchhouse. I'm back with more Fun Fact Friday ideas. Let me take my mask off. Can you believe they let me come back? Good to see you all again. I wanted to talk to you today about thread. And I want you to know that I'm not really an expert on thread. In fact, I probably don't know enough that you'll get bored by what I have to say. So stick with me and let me give you some things that I think I'd like to share with you. Can't really talk about thread without giving you just a little information on a needle, how needles work with a thread. So I have my little miniature needle here. And are you aware that in addition to a hole or eye in the needle, all needles have a channel along the front of the needle? And that channel is very important because the thread that you're using has to not only go through the eye of the needle, but the thread has to fit inside that channel. So if the thread moves nicely in that channel and through the eye, then as the needle goes down into the fabric and starts back up, a little loop forms on the back side of the needle, something like that. And if the timing is correct on your machine, then the hook will come around and pick up that loop. It may pick it up from this direction or this direction, depending on your machine. And that's the beginning of stitch formation. If the thread does not rest in that channel nicely or flow through the eye of the needle nicely, the needle can go up and down, and no loop forms, and you'll never have a stitch. You'll have skipping of stitches. So I think that little bit about needles helps you understand why you have to have needles and thread that are compatible. But let's talk about types of thread first. I want to introduce to you possibly a new thread here in the shop. It's called Metrazine, and it's a polyester all-purpose thread. It's a very strong thread. It's 100% polyester. It's a fine enough thread that you can use it on silks and silky type fabrics, but it's strong enough that you can use it when you're making window coverings or pillows, any kind of home decor. If you sew perhaps costumes, maybe with stretchy fabric for dance, ice skating, cosplay, this is your go-to thread. A wonderful, strong thread, very fine. I don't know if you've ever had an experience with thread you've bought at big box stores, and you may find that it sews okay for a while, but there may be thicker places in the thread, and when you reach that thicker place in the thread, the tension may go off, or the thicker place may be so thick that it won't fit in the channel of the needle, and all of a sudden, while you were stitching fine, now you have skipping of stitches. Quality thread makes all the difference in the world, and Metrazine polyester all-purpose thread is a very good quality thread. Now, up above the Metrazine thread is a cotton thread. This is the silk finish cotton thread from Metler, the same company that makes the polyester Metrazine. This is a popular thread with a lot of quilters. Quilters like to use cotton thread, and this is a fine quality cotton thread. Now, behind me is probably our most popular cotton thread. This is the Aurifil thread, and it is 100% cotton, just like the silk finish thread. Wonderful for piecing. Don't sew a pair of pants out of it. Not a good idea. You want to use a thread that you can actually sit down in. This would be the Metrazine thread, not the cotton thread. All right. So then moving along, all of this thread that's coming up is going to be embroidery thread. I talked a lot about the Metrazine thread back here, the polyester thread, but it is not good for embroidery. I would never recommend Metrazine for embroidery or even sewing decorative stitches. The decorative stitches need a softer, flossier, more pliable thread. The Metrazine thread is highly twisted, which makes it a stronger thread, but not good for decorative sewing. So you want to come into the embroidery threads when you want to sew decorative stitches and or do embroidery. We have a nice selection of variegated decorative threads. We have every color of Isacord embroidery thread that is on the market, every single color. This is a 40 weight thread, perfect for embroidery. And then I'm going to come back to this thread here in just a minute, but we also have every color of Floriani embroidery thread that's on the market. Wide selection of colors. Difference between Floriani and Isacord, not a whole lot. They're both 40 weight, 2-ply threads. They're strong threads. They will work with your high-speed embroidery machines. I think there's maybe just a little more sheen on the Floriani, but I have a lot of customers who mix these two threads on one project and tell us they can't tell the difference. So I think you could feel free to do that too. All right, now coming back in between the Floriani and the Isacord thread.
And sometimes different colors in the two brands too.
Yeah, well, exactly. Even though there's these hundreds of colors in the two brands, sometimes you need a color that's in one brand and not in another. Because there's some real fine shading in embroidery, that's for sure. All right, now this is a thread I want you to know about.
What thread is good for underwear construction?
Darling, you better use Metrazine thread. It's very strong.
She just said if you want to make some pants but be able to sit down, you
I was
can't.
thinking, what about monofilament?
That's a big no, my dear. My dear.
Okay, keep going, Jacque.
Before we're so rudely interrupted.
You had to be part of your video, Jacque.
I know that. Okay, I want to introduce you to this thread. This is a 60 weight thread, a 60 weight 2-ply. In thread, when you see a higher number for the size, it means it's a thinner thread. Now that may not make a lot of sense to you, but you have to remember. A higher number means a thinner thread. Why would you want a thinner thread? If you are doing delicate embroidery projects that are not heavily filled in, this is a wonderful thread. But you know what we use it for a lot? The quilters love it when they're making labels for the back of their quilt, because they use small lettering. So any small lettering calls for the 60 weight polyester embroidery thread. And we have a beautiful selection of colors right there.
Beautiful.
Okay, now let's move over across the doorway, because there's some more threads I want to talk to you about. Over here we have the long arm threads and a wonderful selection of those on large cones. And we know a lot of you have the long arm machines, so keep in mind that that thread is available here. We have some specialty Disney collections of thread and then some large collections of Floriani thread. But one of the main threads I wanted to talk to you about over here is this metallic thread that I always want to call Lone Star.
I think we should call it that.
It's actually called King Star, and I must tell you, if you have any kind of metallic thread at home, throw it away. You need to replace it with this thread. This metallic thread sews like regular embroidery thread. You won't need a special needle. You won't need to slow your machine down to use it. It just sews. It's soft, it's pliable, it doesn't embroider out as a stiff project. This metallic thread is one you want to remember, and be sure you have it on hand when you're ready to do Christmas projects, because that's when metallic becomes very popular and we don't want to run out. Get it now.
We always run out of gold and silver at Christmas time.
Gold and silver. And listen, a beautiful red Christmas, and there should be right here a beautiful green Christmas color, and it looks like we need to restock that right now. I really encourage you to use this thread and toss out any metallic threads you've had. I have to tell you, over the years, we have tried a number of metallic threads. And every couple of years we'd find one that worked a little bit better, but then we had to have workarounds to make it work better. This one you just sew with. It's a delight. Everybody who's used it admires it. I would like to offer you a 20% discount on this King Star metallic thread between now and next Friday, when they may let me come back and do another Fun Fact Friday. We'll see how that goes. Again, toss what you have in metallic, replace it with this. And I want to say just one more thing about thread. Speaking of tossing thread, if you have a collection of sorry, I should not have said that name. If you have a collection of rayon embroidery thread, throw it away. It's just not strong enough, and it's not color fast. You want to use quality thread, and the quality threads are Floriani and Isacord. They are color fast, they don't break easily.
My grandfather sold silky threads back when we embroidered on this machine.
That was all we had to start
That's
with.
all we had.
But it's just not worth it now. It's
No.
deteriorated, and it never was that wonderful to start with. Well, it wasn't, quite frankly.
No, it wasn't. But that's what we had.
I want to tell you that I appreciate your kind comments last week. And if you have something nice to say, comment again this week. Remember what Mama said? If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I think that's all I know today, and I think I'll sign off.
Thanks, Jackie.